Hello and welcome back to the Hearts Wide Open podcast, the podcast where we talk about men's health and well-being. Today, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, we're a few more people, actually one more person. So I'm Dennis and I'm here with Suruj, my co-host, and the amazing Anil, who's also our first guest on this podcast. And we're super excited to have this conversation today. Everything came together really last minute because we only met 2 days ago.
Yeah, Thursday. So
yeah, and actually quite interesting how we met. No, do you want to say something about that, Siri?
Sure. So it was Thursday night that we went to. Basically, we were at Fred Again's concert and we were very excited for it. And when the way back, we were in the metro. It was a little bit cramped, not too much. And all of a sudden, I see Dennis talking to two random strangers about what to do in Amsterdam. And it was Anil and Emma. Emma is sitting in the background, if you don't know, judging us. But basically, that's how we started talking.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
As you see, that's how we got to know each other.
How is this from your perspective?
yeah,
Interesting, yeah.
I think this whole trip has actually been just a yes trip. I think Emma and I actually just decided last Thursday that we would do it. So to then bump into you guys on the metro, I think it was a little bit busy, and you were explaining that some people were doing like a chant on the train with it was like a local thing or whatever, and I think we started talking about some football, and then like Suresh said, it's rest of history. I just feel like the conversation just flowed into running and well-being, and here we are. It's quite strange, but it's kind of cool, I think.
Amazing. And you said you are on a trip actually, so like you want to introduce yourself a little bit, where you're from, what's your story?
Of course. So I'm Anil Toraty. I am currently living in London. We're just here for the weekend. I quite enjoy obviously going to concerts and music in general, but I think some of my passions are also I love to run. I'm very passionate about men's mental health as well. And I actually work at Visa. I'm a senior director in the risk team, so I have quite a prominent role. So I think also talking about this with my team and at work is really, really important to me. So that's a little bit about me.
That's great. Thank you for the introduction. I also wanted to ask this question of how would you introduce yourself beside your titles?
That is a good question.
Yes.
I should have asked you. I should have told me this before. I know you gave me the chance.
Yes, but now you have the time. And I think it's more honest if you...
Yeah. How would I introduce myself without the titles? I would introduce myself as probably just a very genuine and honest person. I think I'm the type of person that's like willing to always help others, and that's probably the core of how I would kind of introduce myself to other people as well. That's good. I think even this coming on this podcast, I know you said that this is like an early project for you guys, and for me this is a great opportunity to talk, obviously, but it's also a great opportunity to help, and if I can do anything to create some conversation,
of course,
it'd be great.
Beautiful.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for us it's also all about just making this voice louder for men to start talking about men's health, and so I think we can really also support each other on our paths, because we're going to talk about this in a bit. But you said also, like, this is how we started talking, but you said that you were really into running, and we talked about this also on the metro, and then like I run tomorrow, so we got really excited about like you're gonna do some runs in the parks of Amsterdam while you're here, and so I'm just wondering, how did you get into running, because now you're gonna do like a lot of kilometers very soon?
Yes. So running for me, it's funny because I've always run a little bit. I was never like a good runner. So even when I lived in Australia, I used to run a little bit. But I think only during the pandemic did I start to run more distance. And I think it really just started to create a little bit of mental headspace for me more than anything else. I was honestly, until like 2020, I was probably only running 5 kilometers, once a week sort of thing.
That's me right now.
Perfect. That's a journey that you're on, basically. And now I feel like, and it's funny, I was just saying to Emma this morning when we were running that only last week did I finally say to myself, I'm a runner. Like, I still just felt like I'm not really that good at running, even though I run a lot now. But so I think my journey's been like very little bit of running for a long time, and now in the last maybe 2 years, I've like really started to run a lot, basically.
And where is I'm curious, where is that point that you know you're a runner? How do you know?
You know what? It's I think I've been a runner for a long time, but mentally for me to feel like I'm kind of good enough was only last week when I ran a half marathon and I did like a time that I actually wanted to do. I beat my time as well that I wanted to do, and I was like, okay, I'm actually a pretty good runner now. But I don't think that's the point. Like, I think you're a runner if you just get out and run, regardless of how many times you stop or how long you run for or whatever. I think you're a runner as long as you get out. That's the actual truth. But
I think that's beautiful. Like, yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just put your shoes on, go running, start it.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it just reminds me I'm using this app to run. And the coach on the app actually says, if you started the run, then you're already a runner. Yeah. You're already a star. Let's go.
100%.
For sure. There's like a lot of people have routines that help them get on top of their mental health and stay like how do you say, sane also, like with working a 9 to 5, for example. It's very needed for some people, as also for myself. So a lot of people do meditation, breath work, I don't know, rowing, going to the gym, these type of things. Why is it running for you, specifically running? Like
It's quite interesting. I'm technically not meant to be running at the moment, so if my physio is watching this, he'll be like quite angry. So I'm meant to be going to the gym a lot at the moment to strengthen my knees, whatever, for November. I just don't get the same level of I can't create that headspace for myself when I go to the gym. Mm-hmm. Whereas even when I go cycling, I just don't get that same sort of feeling. I know it's very hard to describe, I think, but when I'm running, I feel very free. I feel like I'm just in my own space. It doesn't really matter about what's happening around me.
Interesting.
I get a lot of time to think. And I just go with the flow a lot more, I think, as well. And I can kind of control my body a little bit better as well. I tend to run, actually last year, I tend to run a lot with a lot of anxiety at the start. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. It would take me like 1 or 2 kilometers to just settle. But then when I got into the flow, I was like, okay, I'm okay, if that makes sense.
So the running also helped with the anxiety? Or
massively.
And was the anxiety related to the running activity? Or
no, I think I just had a lot of other stuff going on. I think I was just saying, like, I came out of quite a long relationship, not on the best terms. So I was going through a lot in that. And I just was like anxiety riddled most of the time. Like, all day I'd have it, and it would just feel like a lot of tightness in my chest. And obviously, I think anxiety from a medical perspective is also excess oxygen in you. So when you start running, obviously you're burning some of that up, etc. So I think it helps. But I think there's an element of freedom that I have when I run that I don't get in anything else that I do.
No, this is interesting. A few days ago, I was reading an article also about how people who are dealing with mental health or want to improve their mental health are very good at endurance sports.
Yeah?
Yes. And
it's interesting you say that, because I think, I can't remember if we were talking about this or I was saying this to someone else. Like, I used to run 5 kilometers. Yeah. Then I started running a bit longer. And then I was like, okay, I've got to do 10, 12, whatever. Now I feel like I do a half marathon every week, basically. That is where I feel the best. It's almost like a drug, and I need to do more and more of it.
It is like a drug.
To get that headspace. But I think it's also because I'm probably getting more time to myself than I did previously, which is a really nice thing as well. So yeah.
All right. Yeah. I do like what we've been also talking about in one of the earlier episodes around using social media and just having all these things in your head all the time. We're always busy. We're always online. We're always like something, if it's not, even if we're not on our phones, we might be listening to music, to a podcast, to like always this interaction, we're always busy. So we like barely get the time to sit down and just be with our thoughts.
Yeah.
Be in silence. So I'm wondering if you're also like doing that with your running, or like how does it normally look like? Because you run so much, maybe sometimes you listen to music, sometimes not.
Yeah, it's my runs now vary. So sometimes I'll run with music, sometimes I'll run with friends. I'll like I love to actually chat and run. I think we did that yesterday and today. Most of my runs during the week are with friends, and it's just kind of a bit of a debrief. How's your week? Whatever. I think that I quite like that aspect, actually. I try and listen to less music. I think if I'm listening to music, I'm trying to like run a bit faster, etc. You know,
get the tempo.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually some like UK grime, quite like heavy. Give me a bit of Stormzy in there, and I'm like, off I go. But yeah, I think now I'm also trying to run, and I actually stop my music, and I'm like, okay, I try and think of a particular topic that I want to think through. And then I'll just give myself like 20 minutes. I'll be like, for the next 4 kilometers, I'm just going to think about X because I want to figure that out for myself or whatever.
It's interesting.
Amazing.
For me, I can't. No? I have to sit down with it.
Oh, interesting.
To be able to mentally run through it.
Okay.
Because for me, one thing about running is I get so much focused on the running.
Yeah.
That I'm in that, like, you know, the zone, when you're in the zone of running, and it's just, the rest of the world is not in front of me.
Okay.
And I personally get that feeling that I'm unstoppable.
Okay.
And then I put a good techno track.
Off you go.
Off you go. But if I want to think about something, I have to like meditate or write about it to see how it works out. But it's interesting that it's how it's different for different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other things also part of your routine other than running?
Like just in a day-to-day.
Yeah, when you wake up in the morning, like, is there anything like a ritual that you have?
You know what's funny? To what you said about like being on socials, etc. I have a very love-hate relationship with socials at the moment because I feel like I have to be on it because I want to try and promote all the running that I'm doing through, you know, for Movember, etc. But at the same time, I try not to like get into a scrolling habit as well. Yeah. So I might give myself 5 minutes to just go through like some stuff, and then I'm like, that's it for the day. But every morning when I wake up, I still look at my phone, but I now do Duolingo. So I'm learning French. So I do that for 5-10 minutes every morning. And I just feel like I've done something to be productive. And I think actually that is a big element for me. I feel like I have to do something that makes me feel like I've accomplished, you know, small things through the day. So it's usually that, do a bit of Duolingo, then get out for a run. I'm not really a morning person, but I am now because I think running in the morning is actually a really good way for me to start the day as well. So
get the juices flowing.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Nice. Amazing.
Okay. I'm interesting. We behind the cameras we also talked about your Movember.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Movember.
Yep. Experiences that you did last year.
Yeah.
And also stuff that you want to do this year.
Yeah.
Maybe you can start talking about, I'm curious on why did you started it last year? What did you do? And how does that translate to things you want to do this year?
Yeah. So this is, I think I'm quite on a bit of a journey at the moment with just my mental health in general. So last year, as I said, I broke up with my girlfriend at that time, and then I felt like I needed to do something that was going to occupy my mind in November. November's like quite a prominent month for me in general. Anyway, I've got like a number of people's birthdays, etc. And I just wanted to not think about that too much. So last year I did incremental kilometers every day. So day 1 I did 1K, day 2 2Ks, day 3 3Ks, all the way to 30
in November.
In November. Yeah. So that was basically 465 kilometers over the month. And the last 10 days is like back-to-back half marathons, basically. And I did this to really represent that I was trying to show the build-up. Like, if you don't deal with your mental health and if you don't talk about it, it will keep building up and you'll get to a point where you will basically have some sort of a breakdown. And I think the reason I did that with running is, you know, if I said to both of you, like, okay, today we're going to run 1K, tomorrow we'll do 2, you might be able to easily get to day 10 or day 15 or whatever, but at some point your body will start to struggle, you'll start to feel fatigued, mentally you'll be, you know, you'll feel challenged, etc. And that's what I was trying to demonstrate, the importance of talking about your mental health early, basically, and creating that conversation.
I remember one episode I talked about this, that where is that line that you think about, oh, well, something happens, I got this.
100%.
The next thing happened, oh, I got this. And you all of a sudden you accumulate so much of this I got this.
Yeah.
that one day you wake up and you don't got it.
Yeah.
And you burn out, or it just turns everything goes down.
It's so funny that you use the term "I got this" because that's what I say.
Yeah,
it is actually what I say. I'm like, in my head, I am like, right, these are the 3 things that's going on in my life. I got this. I'm going to get it done, get through it, and you can only do that so much. And I think what you don't realize is you might be able to do 5 or 6 of those things, but then some X factor that might be really, really small comes in, and that's it. You're done. You just struggle with everything at that point. And that's where you just never know what that line is, though, unfortunately.
It is. And going flashback to Fred, the ending, that he was like, I've been lost, and I've been lost. And the other side was that you don't have to be so strong.
Yes.
You don't have to got this.
Yeah.
It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to rely on people and ask for help.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was last year's challenge of the 465, and then
what's 465?
465 kilometers.
465 kilometers in
November last
year. That's how many kilometers per day?
Well, it was just the incremental, so I did 1k, 2k, 3k.
Oh, okay.
Like that build up basically. So the total was 465, and that's what I was saying. Like the last 9 days or last 10 days is like 20, 21, 22, 23, and every day I'd get up. Okay, today I got to run 24 kilometers. And the funny thing is, I'd get home, I'd rest, I'd be like, yep, great. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I've got to run 25 kilometers tomorrow.
I got this.
You just got to, correct.
Do you have any rest days in between? Or something? No? Okay, so
because this is the other thing I was trying to show is like, there's kind of no rest for mental health. Like when you're just dealing with stuff, it's just accumulation of stuff that you've got going on. And I guess, I was trying to show that, I don't know, I think it's the best physical representation of the build-up that I could show last year. So a couple of things. I had some amazing interactions with people. Emma actually ran one of the days with me, and it was nice to like have really good conversations. I never thought I would have people use words like "you've inspired me," and like it's beautiful to hear. And some actually funny, one of the people that ran with me on day one, a good friend of mine at Visa as well, she hadn't really run that much before, and then I remember like 600 meters in, she's like, can you talk because I'm done? And I was like, no worries, chatted to her, and then like 10 weeks later she did her first 10-kilometer race, and now she's now basically a runner, so it is great. But yeah, and then I think kind of fast forward to this year, so my challenge this year is I'm going to do 600 kilometers of running, but I've structured it slightly differently. So it's going to be 10Ks day 1, 20Ks day 2, 30Ks day 3, and then I'll keep repeating that. So day 4, I'll go back to 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30. And the reason I'm doing this is last year I realized that my mental health is something I'm going to live with forever. It's never going to go away. And it's a journey that I've been on and that I'll continue to be on. And I really want to talk about my mental health in my teens, in my 20s, and in my 30s, hence why I'm doing 10, 20, 30. And it's just different. Like in my teens, I didn't know what I was going through. My 20s was probably the worst kind of decade of my mental health for sure.
Amen.
Yeah. But I think I started to understand about mental health, and now in my 30s, I feel more comfortable to talk about my mental health. And I also just wanted to do this challenge this year because I'm going to be 40 next year, and then I'm not going to be doing 40Ks. Like if I do 10, 20, 30, 40, I'll be like, it's too much. But
you got this, Anil. And then 50.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Who knows? But yeah, I think, I'm also very lucky that so many people from last year are trying to support me this year. And I've got a friend of mine who's going to do last year's 465 kilometer challenge with me this year while I do the 600. So it's like continuing that conversation about men's mental health in general, I think, as well. The build up, talking about it as a journey, everything. So
that's beautiful. I'm thinking about it, and I love the challenges that you set for yourself. And I think how also inspiring is for people around you to just see that doing. It's inspiring for me, and I'm not around you. Well, technically right now I am. But when you're back in London, I'm not. Probably not going to run 30 kilometer, but now I'm thinking about really doing something for Movember. And I really think this is the beauty of talking about things. It's like a ripple effect. Somebody gets inspired a little bit, and then you talk to somebody else, and you talk to somebody else. And I'm wondering, in your journey in the last 2 years on running and the things you have done for mental health, what is the first one that stands out to you? And it doesn't have to be necessarily positive. Something that is close to your heart.
Yeah, this is a tricky one.
If you want to share, of course.
No, of course. You know what? I think the one the most recent thing actually that stands out in my mind is just I haven't been in a good mental health space for the last 2 months, maybe something like that. And I actually did a little Instagram reel about this because I actually came off my socials for a month in July, and in June I was actually suicidal for the first time in probably 10 years. And it was interesting because it was a fleeting thought. It wasn't like previously I was quite destructive in my 20s. Like when I was not doing very well, I'd like have lots of alcohol, I'd drink and drive, I did all the worst stuff basically. And there's a lot of regrets about how I lived my 20s. And you know, I put other people in danger being on the road, etc. But what I wanted to talk about is this thought that I had was actually sitting at my desk at work, and it wasn't that I wanted to end my life, but I was planning of how I would leave. Like I have a house and I wanted to leave it all to my nephew basically. So in my head it was planning out to say like, right, I'm gonna create a will and give everything to my nephew. But what actually made me feel really sad and was that my nephew's then going to turn 18 and he's going to have an uncle who committed suicide at 39. And that made me feel really, really sad. And I feel like that's probably, you know, I think I also said like, you know, some days you live for yourself and some days you live for others. But I think the goal is to just keep living. I think try and kind of you have to back yourself sometimes. And I know it can feel really tough. And I know you just shared that, you know, your friend was really happy one day and then wasn't there the next day. And I think, you know, sometimes having a bit of space for yourself and think through how you're feeling is important. But yeah, I think that moment in the last 2 months made me realize that the importance of me continuing to talk about it. And I know I took a little bit of time off socials and I just wanted to get myself together. But I think it's important for people to know that like, I'm still, you know, I'm still the same person, but I've just got my own stuff that I'm dealing with as well. So it's not always a happy, I might be smiling right now, but it's not, everything is not always smiling. No, you know what I mean? No. Yeah. So that's probably the thing that stands out the most. And I think it's because I feel comfortable talking about it and not everyone else is. So I feel like I have a bit of a purpose to have these conversations and make it easier, hopefully, for other people to be like, I feel the same, or I felt the same, or I want to talk about it, or whatever as well. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that very personal thing. I really appreciate it when people open up at this level, and I think you're right when you talk about it, that it's okay to feel bad. It's okay. Not every day is a good day. It's okay if you're crying, because that's also emotion that you're experiencing. And just talking about it, I think, make it very beautiful. And on that note, I also wanted to tell you that worlds need more of you. Honestly. Yeah. Sometimes I also think about this kind of stuff, but I think about life as an experience that I really want to live to the fullest. And I think about, like, when the thought comes out, like, okay, what happens? Sometimes you think about others, but also I think about the impact that I can make before I go. And I always try to leave a positive impact behind myself when I leave someone. It might be that just telling a stranger, you look good today, or have a good day. The simplest thing in your life, it's crazy if you know how they change somebody's life. I remember one day, back in Iran, I was talking with the girl, and she didn't feel included in that group that we were, and she wanted to leave early. And I went out for a phone call, and I saw her leaving the door. And so in Persian, if you're close to someone, if you want to show, it's like dude, but more passionate, you call them dear blah blah blah. So dear Dennis. And it's John in Farsi. And I told her name. I was like, ex-John, where are you going? She said where he's going, and she left. 3 years later, she sent me a voice message on my birthday that word that you told me that day made me included in that group. And I came back the day after and the day after and the day after, and I felt a part of that group.
Yeah.
And for me, this is beautiful, that do not hesitate to share your love, your kindness with people, because you never know. The smallest thing that you say, it just might save somebody's life, literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
And I think also they are the small moments. It's funny that you say, like, you know, just speak. I make sure I say good morning to every person I run past when I'm running. If it's an old person with a dog, or if it's another runner, I always try and like make eye contact and smile at them, particularly with other runners, because sometimes you see it on their face that they're like, I hate this run today. And you're like, because also that 1 second of smile, it costs you nothing. And
Exactly.
It could mean so much to that person, or just be like, give them the 5-second boost that they didn't have before, or whatever it is. I think, I think you're right in terms of you have all these small experiences, and I think I'm just trying to create more and more of them as much as I possibly can. And
exactly.
That feeling of not quite leaving a legacy, but at least having an impact, I think is quite important. And I'm hoping that through all the running I'm doing and the conversations I'm having, if I can do my small little bit, I think I'd be pretty happy with myself at the end of the day. So
beautiful.
Yeah, really beautiful.
Yeah, and I think we can slowly wrap up.
I have.
Or do you have
go on. I feel
now that I got
let it flow.
The thing, I always talk to Dennis, I'm full of this kind of questions, and for me, I'm a very curious person. Like, I would love to just get a stranger on the street and dig down their soul, because for me, it's super exciting how every human being is different. And like, what is going through your head, and what do you think about the world? How can you save the world? How is your day? I love this kind of stuff. I hope one day on the podcast, or like on some sort of a show, we can do this on just.
We got one from the metro.
Yeah. We didn't got one. We asked. we invited.
It was funny. We actually spoke about this on the way. We were like, we met this guy. We met these two guys. Now we're on the way to their apartment. What? We don't know anything about you. We're like, what could happen? Who knows? But you know, it's like what an amazing experience, I think, as well. Like, I feel like it's so good.
And so I have one last question on that note. What is something you wished people knew more about you?
That is a deep question, my friend.
Yeah.
Take your time.
I think it's definitely to do with my mental health. I think it's how deep it actually is, and how much I've actually gone through by myself. Because I think people see me, particularly at work, actually, people see me as this, someone who's had a good career, someone who's like...
Got it together.
100%. Like, I've done a lot, I've traveled, I used to DJ when I was younger, I was quite... I don't know, I've got quite an eclectic experience in terms of a life. You know, that's at that top level, that's what people see. But then the depth of me is like, I don't know, the right word to use is not dark, but it is quite, there's a lot of just stuff in me. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is why I think this like teens, 20s, 30s and trying to talk about my mental health is quite important, because now it's, my teens weren't that great. You know, like, I mean, my parents were very, very supportive and everything, and I love them for it, but they also, so I was on national TV last year for like Movember and talking about it, and I spoke about my mental health, and that's the first time my parents ever heard that I had mental health issues or like stuff that I was dealing with on TV. And even then, my parents and I never had that conversation. Like, my parents were like, "Oh my God, you're running so much," and they tell everyone like, "Oh, our son was on TV and look how much he's running." I'm like, dude, it's not about the running. The thing I want to talk about is mental health. You know what I mean? So I feel like I want more people to know that the top level of me, and then what's actually going on, and the fact that you can still be a successful person and have a good life, but you might not always be happy inside. And I think the more you can talk about that, I think the easier it will be for other people as well.
Indeed. And I think we have to accept and know that everybody, you have your physical health, and if you're sick, it's okay that you go to doctor, you take a sick day out of work. But maybe it's not very accepted that when you say, oh, I don't feel well today, or I don't want to work today, people are like, oh, what's up? What's going on? Immediately. And I think this is also some sort of a stigma that you don't always have to be happy. You don't always have to, and as you said, give yourself that space to experience and just go through what you need to go through.
Yeah. I think also on that, I think we need to be kinder to ourselves, because this is a big thing for me, and I really recognize that through all the running that I'm doing. Is if I go for a run by myself, and let's say I'm going to do 10Ks, I'll be like, okay, I need to do it in X number of minutes, and I don't want to stop, because if I stop, it's like I'm a failure, whatever. But when I run with other people, and if they're slow, I'm like, yeah, man, let's run slower. That's fine. And if they want to stop, I'm like, yeah, let's stop. Yeah. It's fine. But like, why am I so kind to that person but not to myself? And
I know the
weird.
Feeling.
It's weird.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Sometimes I'm the fucking hardest criticizer of myself.
100%.
And people look up to me like, oh yeah, you got this and you got that. You have a good life. But I criticize myself a lot. It helps you to grow, I think, but it also it's very hard on your shoulders.
Yeah.
That if you're criticizing yourself too much. And as you said, I was watching a Jay Shetty episode that he was talking to one of the Kardashians.
Oh yeah.
Which is usually not a good sign, but I don't remember which one, but the Kardashian was talking about the experience that she was having with the psychologist.
Right.
About this kind of thoughts. And the psychologist recommended her to always have a baby picture of herself with herself. And whenever you're saying this kind of stuff to yourself, just look at the baby picture of you. And would you say those things to that baby? Definitely not.
Yeah.
I do have the baby picture. Well, now I don't have it with me, but it really works.
Interesting.
Just have it. Would you say those things to other people?
Yeah.
As you said, no. But look at your baby version of yourself. That is the person that really is inside you. And in my opinion, it helps. So maybe that's something that you can
it's definitely something I'm going to look at doing, actually.
Sure.
The other thing I was going to say is something that you just said, being the hardest critic on yourself, yes, it allows for growth, but I think it allows for growth with scars. Because obviously every time you're really tough on yourself, you're like, it's almost like you're whipping yourself, if that makes sense, like physically. And then is that going to make you be faster or be more determined, more persistent? Yes to all of it, but you're going to end up with, by the time you're 40, 50, 60, you're going to have all these scars on you that you are, that you're going to live with forever. So I think it's a funny balance, because I'm very similar to you. It's how driven we are as people, but there's got to be a better balance more than anything else.
True. You have to find your balance, and you have to know your lines to not cross it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, for me, I truly believe growth is on the other side of pain. You cannot. You have to go out of your comfort zone to grow. Otherwise, you'll not. But also take care of yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
And surround yourself with people that you trust, that you love.
Yeah.
So you cannot have that safe net that you can fall back on.
Yeah.
That we also talked about in the last episodes. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Awesome. Yeah, and now maybe to wrap it up. So we have this shared purpose of making a lot of noise around men's mental health and raising awareness for that. How can people support your Movember campaign that you're running in this upcoming November?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So firstly, if you're in London, or if you're going to run in Amsterdam and you want to run virtually, you can actually go on my website, which is aniltot.com. I'm going to have a page on there where people can sign up for any particular day. You don't have to be like a running enthusiast, even if you want to run a few kilometers with me on a particular day and just chat with me and give me some company. That would be much appreciated. Also on my website, links to my Instagram, and also my Movember page. So one of the big things I'm trying to do, obviously, is to raise money for men's mental health. I did that for Movember last year, and that's something I really want to drive. So I'd actually just love any support on Instagram as well, because I think I try and document what every day's running is actually about and what I thought about or what I spoke about, how I'm feeling physically, how I'm feeling mentally, just create a bit of a daily log almost. So yeah, if you want to follow my journey and, if you're interested, yeah, that would be amazing.
You can find all the links to Anil's socials and website in the episode description. What you can also find below this episode is a question, and this week we would like to ask you, what, if anything, what do you do to deal with your mental health or to ensure your own well-being? For Anil, this is running. For me, this can be movement exercises, but also running, of course. For Surush, that's...
I do meditation and gym.
Meditation and going to the gym, but what is it for you? We're really interested to hear your answers on this. And there will also be a poll again, so yeah, feel free to engage with those questions. And yeah, this has been Anil Toraty, our first guest on the Hearts Wide Open podcast. Surush and myself, thank you so much for tuning in again, and see you next time.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.